Welcome to the Bowdudes, a podcast about archery and the lives it has ruined. The Bowdudes are not responsible for diminishing archery skills or lower IQ.
I worry about breathing.
Shut up and shoot.
And I'm totally lost. God, I keep having to remember that we're PG-13. Did it help you with those pants?
No, he did not. I'm so glad you have yourself to crack up.
Logic and common sense will not be tolerated.
This is a very interesting podcast so far. All right. Welcome to Bowdude, the next blah, 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 blah. We're back. And
just stick to the normal, Jack.
Tonight, I think we're going to make this a pretty short one because we're just going to talk about the hunt, and some guys are going to try to make it to Rogers to try to win a bow. Maybe.
We're not going to try to win a bow. We're going to win a bow.
There you go.
If we get there on time.
So do you want to skip what we did in archery this week and just head straight into it? Or
last week, 2 weeks ago, we went hunting. Jim got a new bow. Covered. You ready to go? You're right.
We're good. Let's roll.
All right.
That was easy enough.
I think they'd take my picture if I won that bow with
there you go.
East Fork shirt.
They might.
They may not give it to you. If you Can you turn that inside out, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, bow pictures. Yeah.
Why don't you set it up, Gary?
Everything's already set up. We're ready to record. Oh, you mean about the hunt?
Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't there.
This is a podcast excluding Jim. We went to Aguilar, Colorado with Fred and Michelle Eichler at FullDraw Outfitters. Bob and myself and Jack went. Very good hunt. Started out with...
I was there in spirit.
I felt you.
He scratched twice and it was gone.
Ouch.
We started out with... there's two camps. There's an east camp and a west camp. We started out with a total of 13 hunters, right?
12.
Didn't they have 6 on one side and we had 7? Because we had 6 of us in Shelby.
Aught times aught equals aught.
They said 12 because they said 11 hunters. Only one guy didn't tag out because he left early.
Yeah, he had got an emergency phone call from work or something, had to leave. So it left us with 11, and we went 11 for 11. So it was a pretty good deal. Very good time. We were, like I said, in Aguilar, Colorado, which is south of Pueblo. About, 30, 45 minutes. Pretty country.
Beautiful.
Dry as a bone, except when we were there.
Yeah.
But it worked out, though, because
the
rain was all around us and left our spots pretty much dry. So we had a real good time. But what'd you think about the guides, Bob?
Guides were fantastic. The boy from Georgia, he was, of course, he had that Georgia drawl on, but
He was a Colorado guide?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
He guides about 12 months out of the year. I think he's out there 8, and then his...
No, they do 2 in Georgia because
Yeah.
he guides pig hunts and stuff on their plantation. And then his wife told me they like to go to the Keys, and he'll occasionally help his buddy down there, but instead a lot of times they just go down there and go fishing for a month or so.
That's right. He did take a month or 2 off just to fish. Yeah.
He's out there guiding. He has a master's in accounting from Valdosta State. He's out there guiding.
Told me he's living.
You know, that speaks to that follow your passion deal.
Living the good life. That's what he
Yeah,
said.
because his wife's a registered nurse, too.
She's a
nurse practitioner, so she's making good money.
But she's not working out there.
No, but I'm just saying that they gave
could
that
be,
up
yeah.
to do what they wanted to do.
She said she loves the mountains.
What's
so.
wrong with us?
Yeah.
We're in your garage
Stuck
doing
in
a
the
podcast.
Exactly.
We're doing this thing called Stuck in a Rut.
Hey, I told my wife, I called her and told her, I'm not coming back. And she said, well, I guess I'll just sell the house and everything, you know. And I said, that's it. Bring all the money out. I've got us a place.
Yeah.
Bob, we were in the truck with you. What did she really say?
That's what she said. She said she was going to sell everything.
What we
but
heard
she
was-
wasn't coming out there.
What we heard was good.
Well,
Bye, Bob.
She says, so what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to hunt. She said, well, what am I going to do? I said, that's the best part. I've already got you a job.
He did tell her this.
Because the
on
lady that had that was selling the house and property, they had 35 acres, had a house and then a pole barn on it. she was the lady that cooked
Right.
there. So if she
You had
went
her
back
replaced?
to Michigan, I had Monica right back in there.
Oh, man.
And there was no archery shop even close, so we probably could open one.
Well,
We could have had like 7 customers a year.
I could drive a pickup and drop people off and ride around, look at animals, and
Yeah.
and I have been known to gut an animal every now and then in case,
Yeah.
So I probably could have found work someplace pretty cheap, but I would have been cheap.
They would have needed somebody down there at the slaughterhouse where we had everything.
Yeah,
Butcher shop
but
where we had everything taken care of.
It was a really good time. Just you see these guys on TV and you think, well, that's just an act. Well, if it was an act, he did a good job acting the whole time we were out there. Fred's Fred. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
They mentioned this little gal from, was it Idaho Idaho. I think her dad ran an archery shop. She was out there last year.
Mm-hmm.
She set 5 straight days, and 14 hours a day.
Well, I don't mean to jump in on you, Bob, but sitting in a blind, they drop you off between 5:15 and 5:30 in the morning, about 20 minutes before daylight, and they pick you up after dark. I mean,
Yeah.
dark.
And last
So-
year they said she set 5 straight days and didn't get a shot or anything,
She didn't have an opportunity for a shot.
Right. And so I think what Fred told her dad was, just bring her back, buy a tag, and we'll find you a spot.
And the rest of it's on me.
Yeah.
So he gave up a spot for somebody to let her come back and hunt.
Which is pretty good.
Yep.
And she killed one the second day. So
Yep. Yes, she did. And it's hard to tell if she was happy. She was smiling like crazy, but she was so quiet she never talked.
yeah. Yeah,
But
it was,
I think everybody was happier for her than they were for us because
I know
you could tell she was just ecstatic about it.
Ryan, or my guy, and I, we had mine in the truck and was headed back, to quarter it up and stuff. And when he got the phone call that she had shot one, it was like a bat turn. I mean, about threw me out the window and stuff, turning around because he was all about it then, So
Well, let's talk about that for a second. The guides, all 3 of them. Well, there's multiple guides, but just the 3 we had. Aspen Hanson, she's from South Dakota. Mm-hmm. That right? They guide with horses. I'll let Jack tell that story later because he was there for the whole thing. And Kyle Westover. Kyle's from Washington State, I think. He lived in Montana. I was joking with him about the cabin, and he's like, "Oh, the cabin's great." And it was 10 by 12, maybe. That little bitty cabin next to our bunkhouse.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, it's even got electricity. And I thought, okay, that's got to be wonderful. He goes, no running water yet, but it's got electricity. I go, well, how's that better? He goes, well, when you live in a wall tent in Montana, this is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But he was a really good guy, too. I mean,
He was happy and living life for sure.
Yeah, he was. Then they got that don't quit attitude either.
He was free, didn't
They
have
had-
any debt.
Yeah. And
He was asking me about trucks. I said, I can get you a discount on a Ford. On used ones? And I said, no, just new ones. He goes, well, I don't like to have payments.
yeah.
So he has
Yeah.
no debt.
But their whole attitude out there is none of them will take a day off until you get your animal. I mean, unless they've got something they have to do, they're not taking a day off. And that to me means a lot. And I asked one of them, I go, well, why didn't you just go do it? You could go spend time doing whatever. And his response was, we haven't killed all our antelope yet. So, with other responsibilities and things to do, it doesn't matter. They're there for the hunter, and that meant a lot to all of us, I think. So it was good. I mean, they keep an eye on you all the time. They know where you're at, what you're doing. If you tag out early like Jack did, you don't just sit in the bunkhouse and sit there and go, well, I'll go shoot my bow, and then get bored with that in an hour or two. And then
I did that for a half a day.
then go walk around. No, they get up in the morning and wake everybody up, and they'll come over to your bunk and go, you want to go with me today? And you can see anything you want to see. I mean, they keep an eye on everybody, and it's really nice because they don't want you to leave either. After you kill one the first day, they don't want you to leave. They want you to stick around and see what they do. You've paid for the week for food. Mm-hmm. They still make your lunch. I mean, if you tag out the first day, you got 3 more days. They still make your lunch. They still fix you dinner. They go out of their way to make sure everybody gets what they paid for, and they do a very good job of it, in my opinion. But We'll come back to that in a minute. I want Bob to tell about it. Well, you tagged out first, Jack. Why don't you go first? You
All right.
us
Well,
how your
Gary
hunt
and I had Kyle Westover as our guide.
Well, we had one guide that we were kind of assigned to.
Right. We drew names the night before.
Yeah, but what happened was Kyle started working with Hanson because he was very familiar with horses. Mm-hmm. So she was kind of teaching him. Her and her grandpa Rick were teaching him. So we kind of all got thrown in where we all of us had 3 guides.
Right.
Which, because I think the first morning Kyle dropped us off and Hanson picked me up.
Yeah.
Because Kyle was helping somebody else with something else and Ryan was somewhere else. So it was definitely a team effort. So.
Yeah. But they dropped you and I off. You could see the top of my blind from where you were at. You were in the hantavirus blind.
Yes, I was. That was an accident. They felt bad about
had no idea. While we were the very first hunters that year, and those blinds had been up for a month or two, and a family of rats decided to actually a whole colony of rats decided to take over Gary's blind, and it smelled like rat piss and
everything else.
So Gary's probably got Hanta right now.
I'll describe
okay.
I'll describe it in a minute.
But anyway,
how my day went.
We did actually have a little bit of cell service, and so I was texting, and Gary said, "Hey, there's a big goat coming your way." First thing in the morning, and he came in from my right, and these things are so nervous and so cautious. And he kept 100 to 150 yards between me and completely circled, did a 180 all the way around my blind. So he started on my right, ended up all the way over on my left. And right before he got there, this hawk had flown through over on my left and killed a rat or something. And it's sitting there behind a bush eating it. What do they call those bushes? Cholla or something? Cholla. Sitting there behind a cholla bush eating it. And that antelope came through about, 30, 40 yards to on the other side of the hawk. And all of a sudden he committed. Once they commit, they come. But it takes them a long time to commit. Yeah. And he walked right in, and he's facing me. And I'm at full draw on him, but he's facing me. I didn't really want to take that shot. And just when he was getting ready to turn broadside, that stupid hawk flew right over his head and buzzed him and landed by the water hole and started getting a drink. And he took off and ran out about 40, 50 yards. And I thought he was bigger than the one I shot, but the guides were watching and said he wasn't. I think he looked taller because it didn't curl. Yeah, he was wide and it didn't curl. So
because I got to watch him for about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
at 300 yards. I don't have a 300-yard pin on my bow.
Slacker.
So, I know. Can you believe that?
So I was pretty bummed about that, and I thought, well, there was my opportunity. And then a couple of just legal bucks came in later. I probably saw 70 to 100 antelope that day. I was definitely in the blind, the good blind that morning. And
yeah,
they say I paid off everybody, but I didn't.
Not everybody, just the blind, the guide that dropped you off.
But anyway,
Fred's a rich man
because he tried to kill me.
I was in gar hole.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I don't want to interrupt your story, but explain why I could see the top of your blind. Because you know how the water holes are set up. They have one hole or one water hole that gets fed, and then when it overflows, there's like a valve in there, and it flows down to the next one. Well, that one gets full, and instead of going through rock, they'll miss it, so it may not go in a straight line, but there'll be 3 or 4 water holes connected to the one main water source. So when it gets to that last one, occasionally there's an overflow issue, which we found out about. But that's how it works. That's why occasionally you can see somebody else's blind. If you're not hunting close to them, if we were with guns, they would have never put Jack in the blind below me or put me above him. But with bows, there was no chance I could hit his blind. I mean, he was 500 or 600 yards away.
They have, 70 to 100,000 acres or something like that out there?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, right around 90 or 92, I think he said.
And we hunted...
We were on a 50,000-acre plot.
Okay. So we basically...
But we hunted
We basically covered one
acres.
pasture.
Yeah.
That first week. Mm-hmm. Which everybody goes, well, I wouldn't want to do that. I'd want to be separate. But everybody tagged out. So they knew what they were
antelope,
doing.
there was bucks everywhere.
Right. So I sat there forever, and it started to get hot. So
Forever. Forever and a half hour.
Forever and another half hour.
Yeah.
Well, I sat there until 4 in the afternoon, and probably about 3 in the afternoon, I took my pants off. So I'm sitting there in my underwear because it's hot.
That's too much information.
God, no, it's hot.
It's hot.
He must have been on the hotter side of the earth than I was. I didn't take my pants off.
Well, I'm sitting there with my pants off, and here comes the thousandth
Were
doe.
those your corduroy pants?
No.
Okay.
The 1000th doe I'd seen that day, group of does. And these things, they would be in there drinking, and then all of a sudden they would just bolt. And I'm thinking, I didn't move. I didn't do anything to scare them. And here comes some more antelope. Mm-hmm. And they'd run about 30 yards and go, oh, that's just Mary and Louise and,
And the
Thelma.
kids.
Yeah, and the kids.
And they just look around like, I don't know why we did that.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
And then they'd stop out there and all of them would go like this, get alert and just stare at the same spot. And you'd be looking out there and there wouldn't be anything. And then they'd go, I guess it's nothing, and start eating again.
And they flinch just for no reason. They'll sit there,
Yeah.
their whole body will shake, and they'll throw a leg up. But it's crazy.
So anyway, here they come. And I'm going, well, it's a bunch of other does, and at the early in the morning, that's pretty interesting. After you've seen 70 of them and it's 95 degrees and you're blind, it's like, oh, well, And then I look and I see this buck. He was with them. And it wasn't a waiting game. They okay, let's go get something to drink. And he's like, okay. And they just came right in. And he's facing me. And I was at full draw on him for probably over a minute. It seemed like 5 minutes, but I think it was over.
So you rushed your shot.
Yeah, I rushed my shot. Yeah. So
That was shorter than his
Exactly,
normal
yeah.
draw time. That's why he doesn't shoot tournaments anymore. He couldn't shoot all the arrows
Yeah.
in time.
So anyway, he's facing me again, drinking, and I'm at full draw. And then he puts his head up and he walks over about 2 or 3 feet to the left and drinks some more, and I'm at full draw. And then all of a sudden he turns sideways and starts, he finally gets broadside, and I put my pin right behind his shoulder and shot, and I hit him back in the ass. But I think he just turned. He had to have turned because
They're that fast.
yeah, they do. When they leave the water hole, it's usually like somebody hit them with a lightning bolt and they turn
Yeah.
and go. And because my arrow went through his back ham and straight up through his guts and everything. And he walked out there 50 yards and just stood for about 30 minutes, unfortunately. And then he laid down and died. So I watched him the whole time. He never did run off. And it wasn't something I'm really proud of that I feel good about, but I mean, it was effective. It was just one of those things, where if you bow hunt long enough, you're going to make a shot like that. And so,
Well, this sounds to me like you didn't make a bad shot, that he just turned and it
Well,
was what it
that's
was.
the only thing. I don't think their bones are big enough to deflect an arrow in the angle that my arrow went. I think if he was broadside and I shot him back there, I think it would have just went through both back hams.
Right.
And it didn't. It went.
It's pretty much the way mine went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had to have turned, and he was probably 34 yards when I shot him. He was 34 yards when I shot him, and he would have had time to turn as quick as they are.
Yeah.
So
Well, according to the guides, we were talking to them, they said at probably 35 yards, an antelope can just about get out of the way of your arrow. Said within, if you're shooting it from within 10 to 25 yards, you're pretty good. That normally they can't move that quick. They can duck, but they can't get turned. But at 35, they can almost turn from facing you to going away from you. From the time they hear your bow go off until the arrow gets there. And that's
pretty
just
quick.
milliseconds.
yeah.
But
So-
it is amazing how quick they are.
When we was getting ready to leave, I asked them to put a tape on it, and they was using a metal tape, and it was a quick measurement, and they measured it just a little over 80 inches. But it was a metal tape, and I think it's probably a little over 79 inches, which,
That's a good goat.
yeah,
It was
Boone
a
and Crockett's
real good
82,
goat.
I think. So, but yeah, I
It was
pretty
real
happy.
nice of you to let the big one go, though. I'm
Yeah,
proud
I
of
know.
you.
Yeah.
I'm just a sportsman that way.
It's hard to believe with that grin you got on your face.
But they're good. Everybody that says antelope isn't good, they're killing them in the wrong place on earth or something. You know, I've heard people from some guys who kill them in Wyoming say they can't eat them. But
I heard that they're sagey, but
they taste like steak to me.
tastes good.
Dude, I tell you what, we made.
I got some thawing in the refrigerator right now.
We made antelope chili the other night, and it was good.
Yeah.
We had the steaks a couple nights before.
I keep hearing all this, and I haven't seen one morsel.
I should have brought you
That's
some.
because you only get 20 pounds of meat off of them.
They're
That's
about
true.
They're about $22 a pound, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't that about right, Bob?
I think I probably got maybe 50, 60 pounds.
I've been known
I
to
don't know.
share.
I brought mine home, and Monica and I cut it up, and I after she said, "Well, where's the rest of it?" That's it.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, they're.
Well, Jack and I took the high road. There's a
So they're just basically hams and backstrap.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
We got
Pretty much.
We got some.
We got a lot
burger
of
meat off
got
the
a lot
front
of
shoulders.
I got more burger than anything.
which I'm good with because it's
Yeah.
actually pretty good. But there's a I guess you'd call it a butcher shop, a processor right there in town.
Yeah.
And he's friends with Fred and all the guides. And he has a guy that comes in and does nothing but clean antelope this time of year for the guys, and they'll have it ready. If you kill it on Thursday afternoon, they will have it ready Friday morning,
I'll be dang.
frozen and everything. So that worked out real good. It was $85, but I mean, it comes home in a cooler and you throw it straight in the freezer, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. You know, I was really feeling guilty about the money I spent and everything else, and I come home and I have that quartered up in that cooler and it's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Monica looks at me. She says, "Well, why didn't you just go ahead and spend another $85? You know, just." Oh, well, thanks a lot. Here, I'm trying to be conservative, you know.
Right?
So, next time.
Next,
That's what I told her. I said, next time.
It was nice just coming home and it's already packaged up, labeled
Oh,
what
yeah.
it is, and it's in your freezer, you know. So,
Oh, I need to correct something the other day. Well, we said when we did the first half of this, which we're probably not going to use anyway, I said it was Robert's Taxidermy because we couldn't remember. It's Brooks.
yeah.
That's where we took him. Brooks Taxidermy in Northern.
right. He does a good job,
Super
too.
good guy.
Got a little bit of stuff in there, too, doesn't
Bob's known him for a day or two. Yeah, a little bit of stuff. There was, 75 or 100 deer heads back there in the back.
I've hunted and fished with Mart since we was kids, you know, little kids.
And he does an excellent job, especially those African animals. That was amazing.
I don't think you guys are going to make the bow giveaway.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Sure.
I don't win it anyway.
We both got one.
Yeah, I don't need
I'd
one.
just have to sell it Pibb anyway. So.
You'd have to sell it to me cheap because I need to upgrade.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
the itch.
I went by there to upgrade the other day, and they didn't have any in the ones I wanted.
In your
so
size.
I got away with it.
Just text Rodney and tell him to put our names in.
Good.
There is that.
But you got to be there.
Oh, you do?
Unless you're in like you guys are. So it's
Yeah.
Leaves me out.
We're not in.
look like we're out then.
Yep.
Well, then Jeremy Scotton from Danner, he killed right before me. Actually, he was the very first one to kill, and he killed probably at 4:00, and I killed mine about 4:30, and then
He killed a big old goat too.
yeah, he killed a nice one.
His was wide and tall, and yours
Yep.
was narrow with hooks on them that looked like a gun rack. Mm-hmm. That was amazing.
was pretty neat.
Yeah, and
Jeremy made a great shot too.
yeah, he did.
I guess
make a good shot.
he said he didn't have time to range it. He guessed it, picked his pin and shot, and he
drilled it.
He center
Yep.
punched it. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Bob was next.
Well,
Next morning.
yeah, I spent all the first day in there, and like I said, sitting in there, twiddling my thumbs, thinking about this, thinking about that, trying to read a book, and I'm not much of a book reader, and I had probably the worst cell service.
You could text me, and that was it.
Later, when I got my phone, I guess they was worried about me since I was the oldest one in
Started
camp, 'cause
exploding.
yeah, you okay? You know, it started like at 8:00 in the morning. You okay? And
Well, Bob could text me, so he'd text me, and I'd text him
Yeah.
back. Then I'd text everybody and tell him he was okay. But he's getting all the messages later
Yeah, and
that they had all sent him.
And he's tougher than all of you.
I know. That's the kicker.
but
And I can read. I like reading, and I brought books and stuff to read, but things happen so quick that you get nervous about not paying attention.
yeah,
you know?
I the first animals I saw, first goes 2 does and 2 fawns. And I saw them they came straight up the fence, about mid-morning. Came up there, and that's the closest I had to having an animal or a goat drink out of my water tank. And it was about halfway down the first day. It hadn't got filled up. And so she come up and got her head about, maybe 2 inches from getting a drink. And these birds flew up out of it, had weeds growing in the water on the right-hand side. And those birds would land on those weeds and get them a drink and then fly back up. Well, she stuck her head down there, and when those birds flew up out of there, it scared the crap out of her. She turned, ran, and they flare the hair on their butt when they get spooky and start what I call barking. And she let out a couple of those barks, and next thing I know, they're gone. I mean, they're over the hill, gone. So that was all I saw of the morning. Now, like Jack said, he was in the hot spot because I saw those 4 that morning. Didn't see anything till, it's probably 3 or 4 o'clock. And all of a sudden, some appeared out there at about 300 or 400 yards, and there ended up being 6 shootable bucks out there. They were all scattered out about 50, 60 yards apart, just walking along feeding. And then they disappeared. They just vanished. And I thought, well, maybe they walked over a ridge, but they didn't. They all bedded down. And because about an hour later, they stood up, and they was all still scattered out. Then I had 3 does and a fawn come in, and they stood there and looked at the water. And then there was some old salt blocks, trace mineral blocks there when the cattle were in there about it. And they sat over there and licked on those, which should have made them thirstier, but
right.
But they never came in. I didn't have one animal that actually drank out of the tank there, other than birds and a pissed off roadrunner.
They couldn't reach it.
Yeah, that roadrunner come in. He looked around. It was so funny. I haven't pulled my GoPro up. I tried to film it. I haven't seen if I got any. That thing jumped up on that tank, looked down in it like, all right. Turned around, looked around, and the feathers come up on his head, and he looked around like, all right, who in the hell is in charge of filling this tank? Because he couldn't reach the water, and he was all sorts of pissed off. But yeah, then right about dark, I had 3, and they were just, I'm not sure they were legal or not. They were just right at the tips of their ears. 3 little bucks come in, and I thought they were going to come in and drink, but the closest they got was about 45 yards, and then they ran around, chased each other around, and then left, went to the north. But next morning, come in there, and same blind, sat down. The tank was full then. It was actually just barely running over a little bit. And sat there and was reading a book because I figured, well, this is going to be a long set this morning too. Didn't really see anything yesterday morning till way after mid-morning, and read a couple pages and glanced up, and there he stood. He was about 50 yards standing there staring a hole in the water tank. And so I got my bow ready, and he started walking towards the tank, and I moved my sight to 20 yards because I figured that's about where he was going to come in on the right-hand side of the tank out there, probably 18, 20 yards. And he just stopped. He turned and about started and faced my tent like he'd saw me or something. Well, I hadn't moved at all other than had my rangefinder, going to range him, and stopped and stared a hole. So I went ahead and ranged him. He's facing me, and he was 35 yards. I thought, well, I'll shoot him right in the chest right there, which is a good thing that I didn't because like Gary said earlier, talking to Ryan, he said that 25 yards, if they're facing you and they're a little bit, spooky, you'll probably kill him. But anything beyond that, he said, they're so fast, chances are you'll shoot him in the guts, is what he said. They'll whip on you or completely miss him. So, but I was going to shoot him anyway because I didn't know that at the time. And I looked, and there's this sunflower, right in front of his chest, and I was shooting those swikers, those expandables. I just knew if I hit one of those sunflowers that it would, make it deploy and things wouldn't go good. So I just waited, and he started to walk away, and then he stopped and turned, and like he was coming to the water tank, so I zipped my sight back to 20 again. Then he just turned and started walking away, and I thought, well, like you said, Jack, I thought, well, there goes my chance walking right away. All I could think about was that little gal sat in 5 days, and here was my chance, and it's walking away. And then it's turned and stopped and stood broadside. So I got my rangefinder and I ranged it, and it's 51 yards. And I'm sitting there thinking, crap. Then I thought, well, the last one I shot, in Nebraska, he was 50 yards, so I'm a better shot now than I was then, or I feel like I am. So I slid my sight to 51 yards and drew back, and I was shooting that like Mike, and like I said, when practicing with it, I really have to squeeze hard to get it to go off and everything else, and I pulled back and put my pin there right behind his shoulder, and it was like I came right on through it. I had some adrenaline built up or something. But when I shot, he took off running, and he kind of went down in the hind end, and when he made the little semicircle, I could see blood running down his other hip, and I thought, oh crap, how did I hit that thing in the hind end? And the direction he was running to the northeast, I could see for several hundred yards. So I thought, well, I better get my binoculars on him and keep an eye on him. So I reached down, looked down, grabbed my binoculars, and looked back up, and he was gone. Crap, he couldn't have got away that fast. They're fast, but not that fast. And I thought, well, that's a good thing, So I glassed and glassed and glassed, thought I could see him laying down out there someplace. And so then I found one spot up high and to the left of my blind and stuck my phone up. I had a little bit of signal, so I text everybody and come back. But I'd hit him in the ham, but it came out right behind the last rib on the opposite side. So he had not only, in my mind, jumped forward, but he had turned too, but he died full stride. You could see the skid marks where he landed. And my guide got there and got up on the pickup and looked around, and we went. He couldn't see him, and we walked out there, and I got out there and turned around and range find the blind to find 51 yards back out, and Ryan says, well, this is good. Look at this, and there was blood just strung all over the place. So he told me to go ahead on up and look, and he was going to stay on the blood trail, but I walked about 10 yards, and I could see him laying up there. But yeah, then
mostly he's just dead.
He was dead, dead. Then Ryan, he starts laughing and going on, and I pull the arrow out of the ham, pull it out because I was not very good mood, and should have been real good mood because
right.
He said no. He said, hang on, just put that back in there. I want to take a picture of it. I said, what the hell? You want to take a picture of my bad shot? No, he said, there's a long story about this, and I don't know whether I probably won't go into it. But anyway, he put the arrow back in. He took a picture of it, and stuff. So, but it was a joke on Fred later, so it was pretty good. But yeah, he was dead, and wasn't a monster, but it was
a success.
He was good. And pretty goats. I mean, they're real pretty. Gary's was kind of ugly, but everybody else's was kind of pretty. But
I was sitting here minding my own business.
Well, did you look at the picture on your goat? Your goat's got a nose 2 foot long. You notice that?
You don't got to take
only
that.
Because his horns were small.
You don't got to take
had nothing
that,
to do with the nose on him.
Hit him with your purse.
But no, it was a really good time. But now that first day sitting in there, you think, what? It was almost like you get so bored that they give you a plastic milk jug, just a gallon too. By the way, you got to really be careful
to pee in.
Then they give you a white trash bag. They give you a black trash bag, and the black trash bag is to poop in. So that second day after I killed and stuff, I'd left all my stuff in my blind, and they said, take care of your own black bag. Don't throw it to your guide or nothing like that. Well, they had a roll of toilet paper in it and everything, so,
Did you poop on the toilet paper?
No, but it was so funny. I was handing stuff out to Ryan, the guide, and like I said, he was a hoot. We got along really well. So I come out of there, and he's there, and I kind of shake that black bag a little bit, so he could tell something was in it, and I just tossed it to him. Man, he was faster than that goat. He turned the wrong side up. What are you doing? And I said, oh, it's just toilet paper in there. Oh, he said, I didn't think you told me something like that. But it was pretty funny.
Should we tell the story that Fred told about the black trash bags when he was telling us that night?
Oh, about the guy that was really hot on this cute little gal that was. Go ahead. He
just said he had a guide one time and had this really hot girl at camp antelope hunting, and this guy goes, hey, he was single too. He goes, I'm guiding her. I'm guiding her. And he said first day we came back and picked her up. She handed him that trash bag, and he goes, it weighed about 15 pounds. Yeah. And he wasn't that hot on her anymore.
He had nothing to do with her and didn't want to guide her anymore. No. Because I just couldn't look at her and say, it just wasn't the same.
So I was almost, if I didn't kill the first day, one of the things I was thinking about was taking a bunch of those dirt clods that was in the blind and filling that thing up and hand it out to him.
Hand it to him about half full, about 40 pounds.
But you're sitting there in the blind. I know I was the first day, and it got some, it get to be boring, At least out in the timber when you sit in the stand all day, you got squirrels and everything else. Mm-hmm. But if it wasn't for the turtle doves and other little birds coming in, it would have been rough. But
it's funny that Kyle and I went out one day and we drove around up on top of a hill that overlooks that whole big 50,000 acre pasture or whatever we were hunting. And there is stuff going on everywhere.
Mm-hmm. There's antelope all over the place.
Antelope everywhere. There's coyotes. There's, jackrabbits, everything. Things are going on all over the place, but you just can't see it from the blind. So you think nothing's happening, and all kinds of stuff could be happening 50 yards behind you, and you just didn't know it.
It got to be where I was happy when I had to pee because it gave me something to do.
They're chugging water just to have some more fun.
I'm serious. I was like, man, this is all right. I got to pee. I got something to do. I get up and pee.
And you only had to be in it for a day and a quarter.
Yeah, I know it. 5 days. The fifth day, I would have been.
You'd been Vinny crazy by then, wouldn't you?
I would have been almost like Mickey. Almost not
hot.
Get me out of here! It's hailing on me. Stay in the blind, dude.
I would suggest not getting out. Get under your chair.
But that was mine. I mean, it was like I said. It was really good time. It the horse thing would have been fun to do if it would have worked like it did the last day. That's for sure. So
I'd do it next time.
Oh yeah, I volunteered for it the first day, but me and Michael volunteered. He drew the straw. Yeah.
My problem is
that worked out good for me.
Don't like me. I mean, even the ones I'd get bucked off the ones at the Mattingly Brothers, the dime store when I was a kid. So
you guys just hid behind the horse and.
Yeah, let Gary tell his, and then we'll talk about the horses.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was.
Were you done, Bob?
Yeah, I was done.
Well, my experience was a little different than the rest of them.
He made a good shot. Now I can see this coming out.
No, I wasn't gonna mention what a great shot I made.
Yeah,
but it was. The first day, I got stuck in the human killer.
Hannavirus blind.
Hannavirus blind. It was rough. Being right-handed, you sit in the back left side of the blind. So you can draw and you got all your stuff. At least I do anyway. I always do. That just happened to be where the mice and everybody else decided to make their home. There was a few killer bees in there. Mice, everything. But luckily, I carry I use a nocturnal just in case. I've always got one that has the lighted knock on it in case it was close to dark. And that requires a little bitty screwdriver to turn off. Little bitty screwdriver goes through mesh better than a knife. Gary 10, rat 0 at this point because they'd run up the side, stab right through. I mean, I was killing them. But I saw a lot of antelope because I could see Jack's blind, and there was just. It seems like out there, if there's a little bit of dip in the ground at all, that's where they're going to go because they feel comfortable down there.
It looks flat, but it's not.
Yeah, I could see them going over toward Jack all day, and I had a few come into the water, and actually a couple of them did actually take a drink. But the blind I'm sitting in, there was a window, and it's 3 feet wide and maybe 1.5 feet tall, and that was it. I mean, there was nothing else in there to look through, so it got kind of boring. And the hotter it got, the worse the blind smelled. To the point of I would open the side door occasionally, even though they ask you not to because you don't want to scare the antelope. I'd open the side door and stick my head out so I could get some fresh air. I mean, it was bad. Sat there all day. Never had a shooter come into the water. So, thank God, about 8:20, I hear a truck drive up, and I'm thinking I'm going to finally get some relief. And it was Aspen that picked me up. And she pushed the door of the blind in, and she leaned in, and she goes, "Oh, my God." I go, "It's not me, I promise." And she stuck her head. She goes, "What in the world is that?" I go, "It's rat pee. They're just right here behind me in this." They'd covered up a hole.
She's like, "Sure it is."
No, trust me. They'd covered up a hole, and it made like a little pouch in there, and they just loved it. I mean, they were in there running back and forth all day. And it was bad. We got all my stuff out, and I told the guides, the 2 male guides, when we got back, and they were both like, "All right, we won't put anybody in there anymore." And Aspen's like, "I thought I was going to puke. It was horrible." She's like, "Open it up," and I was thinking, "Oh my God, you sitting there all day?" And I'm like, well, and they, to their credit, they're like, "Why didn't you call us?" I go, "Well, I didn't know what the inside." It was basically cattle panels in a 5x5 that's about almost 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Close to 6 foot tall.
Most of them were homemade, yeah.
And, how was I supposed to know?
You thought it was normal.
I did. I thought I'm going to die by day 3. I'm going to get this virus, and they're going to find me laying on the ground in here. But anyway.
You're in that thing, and Jack's sitting down there in the Hilton.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I could see a lot of the.
It was a little hard to shoot at, but I was really surprised that they got the recliner in that blind that I sat in.
I'm surprised you can make a shot with your feet up.
I'm surprised his TV didn't scare all the goats away. But.
Well, I think they were used to the hum of the AC.
Yeah.
Oh, he really is a jerk. No, anyway, so I saw a lot of goats. It was a good time once you got past the virus. But second day, they put me where Jack had been sitting because the antelope were just literally funneling right down through there. And about, probably 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, I had one come in, and he walks right down to the water and starts. I mean, he drinks. Well, they call it a dirt tank, but it's basically like a
little pond,
really small pond.
Yeah.
And he literally just started drinking on the right side of that thing, and 40 yards later, ended up on the left. And he's just walking through there drinking.
I had him in. I got video of them in the middle of that, walking in the middle of it. Yeah.
Well, he was barely taller than his ears, and the only real shot I had. He was looking straight at me with his head down in the water, so it was his whole back exposed. And it was 30, 35, 37 yards, something like that. But the whole time he was there on the hill, about 150, 200 yards out, was the extremely wide one that you said. Mm-hmm. It had to be the same one because this thing was wide and tall. And I just couldn't bring myself to shoot that small one. And lucky for me, probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the storm moved in. And I'm sitting there, not expecting to hear anything. And it was just thundering a little bit. And the truck pulls up. And they're like, "Come on, grab your stuff. Let's go." "What are you talking about?" "There's lightning within 20 miles. We're out of here." Yeah. Now, it seems kind of weird because you're on a prairie. I mean, it's just big, open. The last one we were at, 8,000 acres of one prairie. And Jack's a little bit taller than me. He was the tallest thing on the prairie. I mean, there's no rock formations or anything out there. So when it starts to lightning, they come get you. They want you out of the blinds because it's just a hazard for your health, actually. But anyway, they came and picked us up. The storm went through in about 30 minutes. They're like, "You want to go out?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm going to take the day off." It would be from 5 to 8. They'd put you in a blind. So.
Slacker.
No, actually, no.
We went and drove
Tuesday
around.
night was great because
Yeah.
you guys got to see the black bear,
Yeah.
and that was really cool.
Fred had a buddy, another outfitter buddy from Florida with him, and then we were back there with Ryan, and we drove around the property that night, and we saw probably 100 to 150 elk.
2 bulls fighting.
Two
that
bulls
was cool.
fighting. We saw a black bear, and
I'm trumping your black bear in just a
yeah,
minute.
you
A
are
big black bear.
big. It was big.
It was big.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had alfalfa back over the hill over
Yeah.
there, or back over the mountain, I guess. And that thing was loaded.
Yeah, elk seemed like they were hungry for some reason, and there was a pile.
Fred
of
thinks it's going to be an early hard winter because he said my antelope even had a winter coat on it, and a lot of the bulls had hard horns, and
I think when we wasn't too long after we got back, there was they had a little skiff of snow out there in the mountains too.
yeah,
so.
yep, they did. We had an earthquake this morning as we're recording this. We didn't have it, but Oklahoma had it, and you could feel it all the way up here.
We got it good in Lee Summit.
Pibb showing actual. That was just in Topeka.
10 miles east of Topeka.
Holy cow!
Parking lot all screwed up.
There's a parking lot that's actually got a
Rips and tears.
yeah.
It
Looks like an
looked like
earthquake went through it.
sinkholes.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the third day, second day I sat in Jack's blind. It was a great spot. A little bit farther shots than I would have been comfortable with. What was the farthest one, Jack? If you're shooting out to the right, it would be, 42 yards, something like that?
Yeah.
And then it got down, and it narrowed down to about 28 to 30 if you, your extreme left.
If they were right on the water edge on the left, it'd be
so
30
at 30-yard shot, I can make that shot, but anything inside of that I'm a lot more comfortable with, like most hunters. But third day, they took me to a blind that nobody'd sat in, and it was different. I mean, the opening was small. There was one little place on the side you could peek out, but it didn't smell like rats, so that made it better. It was slow. I was only in there till 9:30. I think I shot mine about 9 o'clock. But anyway, I had the first ones I saw. There's a bunch of does come through there. None of them came in and drank, but they'd walk right up to the tank, kind of circle around it. And I mean a bunch, as in probably 20 or 30. And then I had 4 bucks come in. One of them was pretty good size. I'm 11 inches maybe. There was a bunch of does came in. Then when the 4 bucks showed up, one small one walked up to the water tank. The big one stayed out. He was 35 yards and looking dead at me. Really no shot. And the other one was kind of blocking the view anyway. He got 5 yards from 5 feet from the tank. And he'd sit there and he'd look at the blind. He'd look at the tank, look at the blind. This went on for 2 or 3 minutes. And finally he looked at the blind, looked down at the tank, and was like, it's not worth it. So they turn around and run off. And, that kind of makes you go, oh man, there was my shot. I should have tried that one. But about a half hour later, they just show up out of nowhere.
Yep.
I mean, you can be glassing and stop and take a drink of water, set it down, and you got 15 antelope standing within 30 yards of you, and you have no idea where they were.
Yep.
So I'm glassing out there, and I catch movement about 50 yards out, and it's a pretty good buck. He's not a giant by any means, but he was a good buck. And he walked in and just kind of like he was on a rope, started coming in toward the water. Gave me a pretty hard quartering shot at 24 yards. So I'm sitting there, hid behind the bow, no face paint, no net, no nothing. And I'm ready to draw. And he did the best thing an antelope could possibly do. He turned around and looked completely the other direction and gave me a chance to draw on him. And it was one of those 1 in 10,000 arrows you shoot where you draw back, and as soon as your eye gets through the peep and on the pin, it's directly where you want to shoot. Mm-hmm. I mean, no movement at all. It laid right there perfectly. And at 24 yards, he gave me it was a pretty hard quartering shot, so I aimed at his front shoulder. And that Full Metal Jacket did exactly what it was supposed to do. Busted the shoulder, went in. The broadhead actually broke off past the shoulder blade.
What broadhead?
Kill zone, an AP kill zone. Cut on contact, by the way. Go ahead. You can make fun of that later if you want to.
Was it the one that you stuck in the tree out here?
Yeah, the same one. But I wanted it to look bad when it tore him up. But anyway, that broadhead broke off in his shoulder, It hit him so hard it knocked the knockback about a 1/4 inch. I mean, it's almost ready to fall out. And the arrow, after it broke, went straight through and still hit the other shoulder. There was a hole in that. It didn't come out, but it stuck in that shoulder. And he turned, and you could tell he tried to grab for the arrow because that's where it went in, and he made the most god-awful noise. I mean, and it was a real low coming from the gut noise. But ran into the fence and then turned and went about 50 yards and laid down, which I couldn't see him because there was nothing on that side to look out. So I texted Ryan. I said, hey, I shot one. Looked like a good shot. When he ran off, he looked and sounded real bad. Apparently that was funny because they usually don't get that. But he came up there. It took about 30 minutes. I got all my stuff picked up. He walked up, and he opens the door of the blind. And he looks in, and he goes, man. And he's whispering the whole time. He's like, you sure you made a good shot? I'm like, dude, I know I made a good shot. I said, I'm 100% positive, but there's always, I said, when I hit him, I saw him turn. I heard him hit the fence. He goes, well, here's what we got. And dead serious. I don't know how he did it. I mean, he was not even cracking a smile. He goes, well, the beard covered up most of it, but he said, about 250 yards out there, he goes, it didn't scare off. There's a buck standing there. He goes, look, pretty good buck. He goes, so we're going to step out of the blind. He goes, we might be able to get around and stalk on it. And he goes, but we'll go try to get that one after we pick up this dead one that's laying 50 yards over here. Then he starts laughing. But it was cool. Fred Eichler and Danny Ferris came out there to take pictures, and they congratulate you after you shoot one. And it was, I think I made a pretty good shot. The Easton guy was surprised at the shot. And Fred walks up, and once you've met Fred a couple times, Fred is Fred. If it's on TV or if it's in real life, and it's, what the hell did you shoot that thing with? Because it looks like you hit him with a rifle on one side, like an exit hole. And then Danny comes up and he's like, "My God, man, did you hit it with the club?" But
so here's the difference, Pibb. I was out there with my PSE and gold tip, and everybody else had Hoyts. Even though I tried to explain to the people that 2 of those Hoyts used to be mine,
right?
That I sold them to them and set them up with them and everything else. They'd shoot something, and Danny Ferris and Fred Eichler and
so it's all one-sided.
Everybody would show up and take these, not just any old pictures, but with fancy cameras and everything else and get put. Yeah, I got the old cell phone picture here. I'll text it to you one of these days, type of thing.
The worst thing about yours is I think they should have opened up the tailgate and gently set your goat in instead of just chunking it over the side of the truck.
That's true. It broke part of my horn off. It would have been bigger.
But
yeah, I'm the only guy out there with a PSE and gold tips. And
well, I don't know.
At least you're shooting a good arrow.
I know. I had to film a section of us putting it in the back of the truck, and I had to film getting out of the blind.
Hoyts, I
had to
understand.
take pictures for like 30 minutes.
You ever think maybe they were
rough.
actually shocked a PSE could shoot that far?
You try sitting...
But I had to prove because...
You try sitting on cactus for 30 minutes while you're getting
that was my
while
blind.
You're getting your picture taken.
Yeah. I tell you, I got the gar hole.
You know how you know Bob's the best hunter? He killed one out of the gar hole.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't get any better than that.
It's a long shot. But
with PSE.
I know. I think he snuck up on it halfway.
Yeah. He's kind of partial to that bow, though.
Tomahawked it.
The hard part was getting the tomahawk to go through that little bitty window.
It's a good shooting bow. But they got professional pictures, and it was really biased towards the Hoyt. But next year, I told him, I said I could have brought my Alpha burner, but
But you are sitting there in a Danner hat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We all had Danner hats.
I got boots on.
Except
too. Yeah.
Gary. Gary didn't shoot his out.
You got Danner boots on?
I got Danner boots.
Jeremy told me not to.
Gary changed his hat and didn't shoot his with a Danner hat. He's the only person that didn't shoot one with a Danner hat.
Jeremy's best friend Brad didn't have a Danner hat on.
I know. Jeremy's best friend Brad doesn't even wear Danners.
Some of us
or a Danner hat.
Some of us are just Midwest hunters. Just saying.
Well,
but you got a gold tip hat on too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we got treated pretty good.
Yeah, you're complaining. None of us
Damn
have
right.
sponsors
Yeah.
or anything, so
Yeah.
quit your griping.
I got a sponsor.
No, him.
See my hat?
Yeah. Yeah, that did work out. Jeremy did us a favor, and it was really nice of him. And we all appreciate it. But
Not we all.
I did
Some
change
of
hats.
you.
Now, you're happy for us.
Yeah.
Oh, I am?
Really? That's what I thought.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, that morning we get out, and Jeremy's already up, and he's like, well, what are you going to do today? I go, Jeremy, I got to switch something up. I'm not seeing any good ghosts to shoot. He goes, yeah, superstition, man. You got to change hats or something. I said, I'm wearing a Danner hat. He goes, no, just try something different. So I'm blaming him for not having the Danner hat on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Blame the guy that.
I switched.
They
I
gave it to
switched.
him.
Yeah, just an FYI.
Hey, I went on their website and ordered socks and stuff when I got home just because I felt bad.
To go,
Just an FYI.
to go with the
I can
boots
wear
he
my
gave
lucky
you?
hat again.
Your lucky hat?
My lucky hat.
Oh.
I can wear it again.
that thing not crawling away, the green Hoyt.
Yeah.
I still have
It's
it,
hanging
too.
right there.
Yep.
It's almost standing up by itself.
But, but tell them about when the morning you shot yours, you had a good omen on the way out.
Oh, yeah, that. I'm going to give a rundown after I'm done with that of all the animals I saw in one day, which
Oh, come
it
on.
was amazing.
Weren't we trying to go to Rogers?
Yeah, but we're not
We'll
gonna
be
make
there.
it.
We'll make it there. We're just not. Oh crap! I'm supposed to meet Ron up
Man,
at
this guy-
10:45. Anyway,
Yeah.
we leave the bunkhouse
miss
and 10:15. We leave the bunkhouse and we're driving to go take us out to hunt. And about 7 miles from the bunkhouse, I go, Ryan, look, and he hits the brakes and look up, and there's about a 150-pound kitty cat crossing the street, mountain lion. He took 2 steps out on the road, and it's almost like he had this look at the truck like, yeah, I think I can take you. Because they just don't look nice at all when you see them. But
That cat
Yeah,
or
that
another
was-
one, another one had killed a mule deer and had it right by some mailboxes up there.
yeah,
The game warden came by and he had the mule deer in the back of his truck, I think.
yeah, but I'm going to assume it was the same cat because it was
Yeah.
right there we were talking about. But
Or he went and looked at it. I don't know if he had it in the back of his truck.
he had it in the truck.
Yeah.
We saw it when we came in. Yeah, but yeah, I think that was my good luck charm. The thing is, though, I never really want to see one in the dark when I'm walking into my tree stand around here. So I hope it just has a little carryover with it.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to go check it out. But
The best part about that is that day, before we knew that you had seen one, Jack says, man, what really topped this off is I don't think it would ever happen, he said, would be if we could see a mountain lion. Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be great and everything else? And then we found out
Yeah.
that damn Gary, that asshole saw a mountain lion and before I did. That's not fair.
well, I was in the front of the truck and didn't get to see the bear.
That makes him king a-hole.
A lot of people have seen bears. Very few people have seen mountain lions out in the wild.
Me and Brad and Kyle got to see it. But that day, just a rundown of the animals. Not, no specific order or anything. We saw a mountain lion, mule deer doe as we were driving in. Then after that afternoon, we saw 2 mule deer bucks that were very large. One of them was 185 plus. And then we saw a crossover, which is a mule deer and a whitetail. It's a mule deer body. I mean, you can look at it and go, it's a mule deer. It had a whitetail rack. Wide, went straight up on the sides, no tall
Hybrid.
in the back, nothing. Yeah, they call them crossovers, but
Yeah.
the hybrid. We saw whitetail bucks. We saw elk, coyotes, turkeys. I mean, I don't know how many
a
turkeys.
lot of turkeys.
And this was
You were
with
in
Jeremy's
heaven?
with. They were everywhere.
could have been.
Were you making mental notes?
If they'd let me out, I could have been.
I think they have more turkeys than Missouri does now.
Did they
Yeah,
not
I mean-
know they had the turkey whisperer there?
They
Yeah,
would have if they'd let me out.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of everything. It's the country out there is amazing, and I told Jack before, and I think Bob told him the same thing. If we wouldn't have killed antelope and just got to do what we did the first 2 days we were there, it was worth the money.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're not getting anything from Fred or anything else, but
No.
it's a great place to go. And if you want to go there, you need to get a hold of FullDraw Outfitters. And I think it's FullDrawOutfitters.com.
Yeah.
And, but they, if you want to hunt antelope, it's going to be 2018 or 2019. You're
Yeah.
not going to get there next year.
unless you're willing to bribe us, then we might be able to work something out.
Yeah.
And he
It'll
looked,
take a good
you notice he
drive,
looked at Jack when he said to us, as as Hoyt shooters. I know.
Oh, he went there again.
Yeah. They told me, he says, here's your shit. Get out of here. I'm joking.
It was so bad, the processor wouldn't even cut Bob's antelope up for him.
Yeah.
And well, if they'd have stopped when they went by the processor instead of the guy in the back just chunking his goat out there
Yeah.
at
See
the
you
processor's
Friday.
door. Yeah, and he called and said, "Hey, come back and get this thing. I'm not going to cut it up."
And Fred, if you do happen to listen to this, I'm the guy that decapitated. There's a big story on that, but we won't go into that. We probably
All right,
will
Jack.
one of these days. But
Describe the horse hunts, Jack.
Okay, I'll do this real quick.
I was in the blind 2.5 days, so I got the full experience, and you have yet to sit in there as long as I did, and you've been twice.
Yeah. I've sat
He's
in
got
there
the Jack's got the mojo.
I've been
No,
twice.
he's got the $500 cash that he gives the
I've been
guy.
twice, and I've sat in there a total of 14 hours.
I did that the first day
me too.
in the rat piss blind.
So, anyway, they had Aspen Hansen and her grandpa. What's her grandpa's name? Do you remember? Rick.
I'm not sure whether it's.
I don't know if it's
I don't
Rick
think
Hansen or not.
No, I don't
It
know.
may
It's
be.
not
It's not.
because it was
Yeah.
It was his daughter and granddaughter has been.
If you do a search on YouTube for hunting antelope with horses, and maybe even Fred Eichler hunting antelope with horses, he did it last year with these guys in South Dakota.
Well,
And
to his credit, he said, he goes, when I saw this, I thought this crap's never going to work.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen. And then he went hunting with them.
Right. And so the grandpa came down and just kind of helped her get started, but she's 17 years old, and I don't think she needed any help.
No.
Very mature, very patient, one of the better hunters, more patient hunters I've ever seen. And how it works is they'll take two horses, and they're using Fred's horses even. They're not used to doing this. They're not even using her horses. But he wanted her to train his horses, and get them used to doing this. She would start off anywhere from a half a mile to a mile away from the goats, and they'd just start walking. And they would walk 20, 30 yards, and then they just had ropes on the horses. They had them all saddled up and everything, but they had ropes on the horses, and she'd just let them put their heads down and feed, and she'd be watching the goats through the binoculars, the antelope through the binoculars, and just reading the antelope. Are they really staring at these horses? Are these horses making them nervous? And the very first day, one of the guys from Easton killed one behind the horses. And that was out there where we were hunting.
Yeah,
close,
it was out
close
just
by it.
basically out on the prairie.
Yeah, and then
he did it early too. I mean, he killed
one of
us,
the first ones,
7 or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
I mean, it was right off the bat.
Yep. And so that kind of, I went with them and watched them do this a couple times over in our pasture, and I felt like the antelope weren't used to seeing cows or horses and stuff, and they would let them get within 100 yards, 70 yards, and then they would just they wouldn't run off, but they'd slowly walk off. And I thought, well, they're just not used to seeing these things. I don't know if this is going to work. But the Easton guy killing one, it just
he killed a stud too.
Yeah, you got to get it right. This goat was chasing does, and he had no interest in the horses at all.
Yeah.
And we went over to this next pasture to try it out. It's 20 miles south. He's got all kinds of land. And
the pasture itself's 8,000 acres.
Yeah.
It's a lot of property.
And Brad, he's from Nebraska or Iowa, I don't remember. Iowa. And he went first, and we led him off like a mile away, and we watched through spotting scopes and stuff. And it took her forever. And she made this huge loop. And even her grandpa said, man, she's more patient than me. I'd have walked him straight in.
Yep.
And she made this huge loop around them. And your perspective on the whole deal is really weird because there's a couple times it's like they're on the side of the antelope. Those antelope have to be able to see them, but they weren't. It's just how it went. She made a huge loop out to the left, and then she came back on this buck, and Brad shot it at 30 yards. Mm-hmm. Walked right up to it, and it didn't even get up out of its bed until they were there and that's the only reason a couple of does kind of got nervous and jumped up that he was with. And so he killed it, and then immediately they were driving in to pick that up, and Ryan saw another group of bucks. And
Well, that wasn't the same one. I was with Ryan.
Yeah.
And the one that Michael killed wasn't the one originally they were going to go for. It was farther down.
Right.
And I don't know if it was bigger. But good Lord, when we were watching them through the spotting scope and binoculars, how many other bucks did we see
there was
that
a ton of them. We didn't even,
were shooters?
You didn't even see them down there until then. You know, that's what they can disappear in plain sight. You know, and they walked Michael in on one, and he shot it laying down and hit it just maybe 2 inches low.
Yeah.
We watched the video. It's like, dude, there's no reason why this buck didn't die right away, but he didn't. And Michael had to stay on him for a couple hours. And actually, we watched him for a couple hours. We're thinking he's going to die any minute, and he didn't.
And we're thinking, why didn't we bring extra water and food?
Yeah. I left the house that day without any food. Thankfully, Gary gave me a sandwich because I was there out all day long. But and I don't have. We were out all day long, and I can't.
See, trying to take credit for
I
everything.
can't.
I had food.
You were at the camp.
There's not
No,
much.
I was out there with you. I was with Ryan, and we picked up Michael and took him over there.
Yeah.
Because he was in the blind that I'd been in, and he wanted
Right,
out of
he
there.
almost got the stalk on the
because
first
the gut
time.
pile was out there. You
Yeah.
know, and he had ravens
Yeah.
eating.
Well, you were in the truck with me, weren't you?
He got gar-holed.
Yeah, he
double
got gar-holed too.
Well, Michael had a couple of shots, but
Long.
Yeah.
some of them were
Well,
were longer
when we-
than.
On that stalk, I was there. Yeah.
And
I thought he had that one dead rights, and we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, absolute middle of nowhere.
storms
we see it,
coming in. We're getting drizzle. We're getting rained on a little bit, and we're out in the middle of the prairie. And if we didn't get back to the road before it rained hard, you weren't getting out of there.
Yeah.
And the wind was blowing really hard.
Oh, it got up to 30 at least in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
And long story short, he finally got up on it and made a shot. You know, and
But over there was cattle.
yeah,
Around in there, and I think that made a big difference. They didn't seem to think to, or someone said they didn't think so, but where those goats were used to that, the cattle and stuff around there, I think it made. I mean, you go over there and go 2 for 2, and the reason they
The
weren't
same
hunting
day?
that is because
Right.
it had rained more over there, and they just wouldn't go to the water then. But,
yeah. But
2
there
for
was
2.
12 hunters in camp, and one of them had to leave early, and all 11 of them tagged out. So
Yep.
that was pretty good.
Now, what I was talking about a second ago, we're sitting in the truck when Michael's stalking that one. We dropped him off. It's off the road. There's a hill. He's making progress over there, and we couldn't see him, but we were kind of judging, about where he was at. And he was getting, what did he say? He got within 70 yards, something like that. Getting ready to move a little bit more so he could make a shot, because that's a comfortable range for him. And it was pretty much dead calm then. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's a Suzuki Samurai or some sort of little bitty Jeep thing lifted up like a four-wheel drive off-road vehicle coming one direction, and coming from the other direction was a dirt bike, a motorcycle.
Oh, that was the first. That was the first stock. That wasn't the stock he killed his on. Yeah.
They met at a crossroad that was 15 miles from the next crossroad. How does this happen? But
I don't know.
And then
But anyway,
I think that kind of messed them up, because as soon as especially when the dirt bike went by, those antelope were geared into that thing. Well, that's right in line where Michael was, and I think that might have messed them up a little bit.
But once she walks them up on the antelope and they get within shooting distance, which is usually like 30 yards or so, then they'll draw their bow back and she'll walk the horse out of the way, and they'll be standing there just,
It's funny to watch her because she's so little. She just looks down underneath the front of the horse, tell you the range, and she backs the horse up.
And she's little and she's pretty, and she's 17 years old, and she jumped right in there and gutted her client's goat for him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
She's got to go back home and finish school. She's homeschooled, so she's got to go back home, finish, and then I think she's talked like she was going to come back and be a full-time guide.
Yep.
So,
But that was really, really cool to watch the horses. If I go back, that's one, and they're still there. That's one thing I might want to try.
Yep.
Because it's not that much fun sitting in a blind, even though they usually have it worked out where they're going to have an antelope come by me within a couple hours. So,
Well, Ryan and Kyle both said that Aspen was supposed to come back.
yeah.
And Ryan said, I know she can handle her own with those horses, but a little bit concerned when we start going up in the elk country.
Yeah,
But
and they had two.
I don't think she's used to that. They usually just hunt. But you know what? The kid's got some grit. She'll probably make it because she wanted to learn. That's why. I mean, in some of the names they have for stuff, I don't know how you'd ever remember it. But the 30 or 40 blinds, whatever they got out there on the 50,000 acre plot we were hunting, you know, they name one. She's like, all right, I know where that's at. And she'd been down there just for a couple of weeks.
Every mountain peak looks the same to me, and they would point at a peak and say, that's Sumner Peak. You know, I'm like, what? How do you tell the difference, you know?
I asked her, you know, Fred's is kind of just, that's off the beaten path. And I asked her, I said, did it take you long to figure out how to get back over here? She goes, no, I know I get on this road, and from this road I turn on the great big road that comes in from the left. I'm like, okay. I said, what's the name of it? She goes, I have no idea. It's the big road on the left.
That one peak there that was on the neighbors at Hogback, they call it the Hogback.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Every time we drove by there, Ryan and I drove by there, on the west side of it, we'd always see, you know, 3 or 4 really decent antelope, you know, bucks out there and everything. And I thought it was pretty funny to always talk about the grass is always greener on the other side, you know, of the fence. And we're driving along every time. Man, he said, I wish we could hunt that. He said, man, you got 50,000 acres and you got a little chunk here, and man, I wish we could hunt that. You know?
One guy,
I'd like to just walk up it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
It would take a while, but I'd like to walk.
they can't even get on it. One guy owns that piece of property, and it's 150, 200 acres right there.
It's
maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think it's that big?
It's a pretty good chunk of land, but he owns just that. I mean, and from the road, there's one way to get in his property, and then it's completely surrounded with other property, but he owns that, what they call hogback.
Ryan said he'd like to get up there just for the artifacts because he said he bet there's all kinds of, you know,
they get up
Indians
there,
probably got up there and, you know.
And they've seen mountain lions up on it and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
He said elk, let's see elk up there on it. And they said that whole prairie down there be covered with elk, and that's, you know, a long ways from an actual mountain.
Yeah.
But it was worth the money, and I want to thank you in front of everybody for inviting us. It was had a very good time.
Shutting up now.
It was a really good time. But,
so we got time. What'd you do in archery this week?
This week I've shot a little bit in the backyard. A week ago, right after we got back, I did go to Green Hills and shoot their 3D course with my hunting bow. Vinny shot. Vinny, I can't judge, and he just whooped the whole course.
Did he?
I heard he shot good.
Yeah, he did.
Heard he got a new bow too.
Yeah, he traded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hadn't got it.
Next week, he said.
He's shooting great with the Hoyt, so he switched and went to Elite.
Well, I'm not sure what he's going to do.
No telling what he's going to do.
But
that's like following Pibb and bows. What do you do?
Shut up, Gary.
What?
Speaking of which, what'd you do this week, Pibb?
Yeah, let's hear that.
I built a new target bow.
It's an Elite 37 or
no?
Elite 30. You went with a 34 for a target
Is that
bow?
Is that the?
You knew this was
Matthew
coming,
Hoyt,
didn't
Matthew Hoyt PS Elite.
So what's up?
It is
O-Tech.
nice looking.
I didn't know.
Shut up, a-hole.
Bowtech.
I didn't know Elite put that bridge on the back of the riser.
No.
Is that a new one? Or you have a concept bow or?
No, it's not a concept bow. It's.
I didn't know you spelled Elite Hoyt.
What? What is that?
Huh.
That would be a Podium 37.
Oh, so you're back shooting Hoyt now.
An Elite
Yes,
Podium
sir.
37.
Okay,
Yes.
Huh.
Shut up, Gary.
hey, you got to shoot what you're comfortable with.
It
man.
is pretty.
It did turn out pretty sharp.
It is pretty.
So.
I like the PSEs I was shooting, but it feels good to be shooting Hoyt again. Just feels natural. I've shot them for so many years.
That's the thing. I just know them inside out. I keep trying. I want to try a little bit of everything. I mean, they're all. Everybody makes a good bow. So.
Yeah,
and I didn't do bad with it.
Call them the same names.
I didn't do too bad with it. And I got nothing against the other bow.
Yeah.
It's just that was something that in my crazy head that I was a little more consistent with. So
yeah.
Well, like I said, if you just sit back and you think, what if, so you try it a little bit, and then Well, that didn't work. Go back. So,
Yeah, you got to try something new.
It wasn't that it didn't work. It was just that I had such a great year with one of those last year that in the back of my mind all season long I was like, ooh, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
But the Elite 37 is a great bow. It shot great. But
Are you going to need a minute?
it's a totally different.
I'm going to need a minute.
It's a totally different shot process for each bow, though.
What's the difference? What?
Seemed like that.
Expound on that.
Oh, Bob's an a-hole now. I don't know.
Wow. I got off easy on that one.
That 37 likes more of a finesse shot. It doesn't like a real aggressive shot. And I've just shot those Hoyt cams for so long that it I can shoot a weak shot or a really strong shot, and it doesn't have an adverse effect. And I think it's got to do with the limb stops of the 37, where I had to shoot it a specific way. And when I'd get nerved up, it would change things for me, because I tend to shoot a stronger shot when I get nervous.
And that was your left and rights.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
And they weren't drastic
Yeah.
left and rights. I'm talking inch and a half, 2 inches left, right.
Yeah, understand.
So
Understand totally. Because that's...
And it wasn't the bow, it was me.
Yeah.
So
Because that's Decree HD. If I understand, because I'll get a little left and right every time, every now and then, and I think it's just because I'm a little too aggressive. I just get back and just relax and pull into
let it happen.
Let it happen, and it shoots really nice.
It's hard to finesse with shut up and shoot, ain't it?
Why's your wife got a vacuum while we're doing a podcast?
How come you?
I don't think she has the same priorities we do.
She must hurt
You're just lucky the dog's not up there yipping at it.
It was. I heard it.
No.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, that's what I did.
What about, not to go into all of them, but how's the new rules for ASA going over?
That
We can
answered
go.
that. Thank you, Jim. That was beautiful.
We can go over that next podcast, but
There's a lot of interest in the new class.
which is?
The Hunter Elite. 280 max speed.
Does Gary get to have a movable sight?
No.
No.
I hate you guys.
Fixed pins, 12-inch stabilizer, all unknown. 40-yard max.
That class sucks.
And anybody can jump into it, except for pros. I mean, or
It has to be a lateral move. Or an upgrade.
so would it be a senior known?
Well, there's senior hunter for you.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
Oh, damn, I feel better already.
if you'd like.
I didn't think I could go back to senior hunter after.
What if you haven't shot for a couple years?
All I know is that after the Classic and after the state shoot, I was like, break time.
And then this happened.
Right?
What if you haven't shot in a while, like Jack said? Can he go back and just shoot whatever class he wants to? Because he's been out of it for, 10, 15 years now.
Not so much.
Still got to go back to known 45
Or B.
or B. Guess I won't shoot then. They're not going to change for me.
Me either.
How about you, Gary?
Why don't you just learn to play by the rules like everybody else? Blah, blah, blah. They keep changing them. I haven't done a whole lot. Really not much since we've been back. I went to James A. Reed the other day and shot the walkthrough course. It was about 570 degrees
Yeah.
with 900% humidity.
You just shot it by yourself?
So I practiced shooting in the rain, basically.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I walked through by myself.
With flocks of mosquitoes.
Well, I didn't
Gee,
have the
Zika.
off in the truck, so I lathered up pretty good before I left. But now I was just trying some different arrows. I fletched them differently, and I used an arrow that was over 50 grains lighter than the ones I was shooting, and they were all hitting almost exactly the
And
same
I got
spot.
no questions about this.
So,
Good
I
job,
didn't do
Gary.
much.
You did something on your own.
Yeah.
If looks could kill.
you'd have been dead years ago. Don't worry about that. I ain't the first one.
I'm playing around with some nocturnals. I bought some nocturnals to put in, and they're pretty well hitting the same. I've only shot them like to 30 yards, I think. But
Did you get some hypos?
and I bought some Rage hypodermics. As much crap as I've given people about Rage over the years, and
Ask him what I gave him while we were on the trip, Bob.
you gave me
$40 worth out of my pocket. Here you go, Jack. He said, I'm going to try these expandables. I think I really like those. Well, here you go. You can have this brand new package I bought.
Yeah, you gave me some Killzone.
And
you can have them
what
back.
happened after that?
Well, they say Killzone cocks, and
bought-
I don't want to shoot something that says cock.
Cut on,
I just don't want to do it.
cut on contact.
I know, but they don't say cut on contact. They say COC. So I just
And on the other side of the package, it
I
says
can't
cut on
do it.
contact.
no.
You just want to be hypodermic like everybody else.
I do because I
It
think
was
Feel the rage, Jack. Jump in. Join the crowd.
after he saw what those hypodermics did to the
Kool-Aid, tastes great.
let the Mickey's buck.
yeah,
It was bloody mess.
yep.
It really was.
So what did the Killzone do to Jeremy's
no
bear?
comment.
And to your antelope,
I know.
both of them. I know.
And the deer I killed last
The
year.
only thing I have to say is wasp rocks.
Whatever.
So
Buy them at the discount bargain basement.
And that was where he was
Exactly.
laying.
Exactly.
Good point. Thought about that after.
jeez, that looks like a murder scene. I guess it was a murder scene, but
Yeah.
it looks pretty bad.
Everybody gets caught up on this whole broadhead thing. They're this, they're that, whatever. You know what? That thing's got to work one time.
Yep.
Yep.
Mine worked good. I'm happy with them. 2 for 2, and both of them didn't go 100 yards combined.
So anyway, I'm getting out of the norm. I've stayed in the norm for years, and I'm tired of it, so I'm moving out of the norm.
But buying Rage hypodermics is getting out of the norm.
Well, for me, I'm breaking down barriers for myself.
Oh, God. Breaking down a barrier when the fence is only 1.5 feet tall.
But
White
anyway,
dog.
we probably better end this so you guys can go to Rogers. So
You guys.
I'm going to meet a guy at Rogers and bringing him. Well, Pip's going with me, and then we're bringing him straight back here so we can work on his bow.
you are.
Yep.
I'll just tell
That's
them
what we're going to do in archery this week.
Well, you got to be there in 15 minutes. It takes 15 minutes to get there, so we better quit.
15 minutes.
What are you
From here?
riding your turtle?
So
Oh, he drives a Ford. Oh!
Hey, at least he didn't have to buy a new one because his motor went out on the other one. Oh!
Motor didn't go out. It ran to the dealership.
You mean it rolled to the dealership?
It made it there.
Hey,
All right.
every cute little thing wears a bow tie.
I guess we'll be back next week.
I think
When,
Maybe.
when they figured out what the problem was, they circled it at Ford.
they did. They put
Yeah,
a
it's
bullseye.
right on the grill.
They put a bullseye on it, and everybody's
right
been
on the
chasing it ever
grill.
since. What am I talking about? I don't like them either. I just work there. I get good discounts.
All right.
Bob stepped out on us. What really happened?
Yeah.
We won't
Bob
go
helped
there.
us get absolutely no profit sharing and no retirement.
We won't
And he
go there,
bought a new
Bob.
truck.
We'll leave you alone.
I'm ready to leave there, too.
Let's see, Toyota,
22 years.
PSE. At least he's shooting gold tip.
Yeah. Sometimes till I step indoors.
We still love you, Bob. Kinda.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Look
Shut
us up
up
on
and shoot.
look us up on Bowdudes.com. All the other information's already on there.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
All right. See
See you
you.
in the funny papers.
See you.
Shut up
already
and
did.
shoot.
Here you go.
I already did it.
Bicycle.